Hi everyone, in this video we'll give you a brief overview of how to play the Souls Rebirth. We'll play a two-player game. Game will be competitive, 1 versus 1, so we each player take a meeple. To begin with, all altar cards are removed from the main terrain deck. Then, each player gets 1 altar hexagon. Here's the basic game setup we use for this tutorial. We hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. Then we take 5 random terrain hexagon. We line them up like this in between players' altar hex. Each player place their meeple on their starting altar hex. Time to choose our starting scenarios. Grab the scenario booklet. Now each player picks 1 scenario. For this tutorial, we're going with the first scenario type, liberate a region. There are several scenario types, each offering a unique playstyle and strategic challenge. The one you choose will shape your entire approach to the game. For this example, I'm selecting the Swamp mission. The objective is simple: launch successful attacks on the entity settlement 3 times to win. To begin, find the Swamp hex in the terrain deck and place it face up next to your player board. The second player chooses Grassland. Find the Grassland hex in the terrain deck and place it face up next to their player board. Once all selections are made, shuffle the terrain deck to prepare for the next phase. All set? Let's move on. Here we go, the first round begins. The game runs in rounds and each round is made up of turns. Turns go clockwise, starting with the first player. Let's break down the full round sequence. Turns 1 to 3, players' actions. Each player takes their turn, 1 by 1, 3 times. Turn 4, it's the common enemy's turn. Turn 5, now the entities strike. Turn 6, time to consume rations, 1 per player. That's the full cycle. Then a new round begins. At this point, each player's scenario is set, and everything's ready. Now it's time to choose a common enemy, one card that will define the threat we all face throughout the game. Draw a card from the common enemy deck, reveal it, and there it is. This will be our common enemy for the rest of the game. Our common enemy, the Ice Age. You'll face its effects starting after the 4th round in this game. When we awaken at the altar, we're reborn as one of the characters. Each player draws the top card from the character backstory deck. For example, the first player draws the Nomad backstory card. The Nomad player takes their card and places it. Then the next player draws their card. This time, it's the Bard. The Bard player also takes their card and places it next to their character sheet. Now let's learn how to set up the Bard's character sheet. Here we have the Bard's 4th ability. Let's place it in position. These are the Bard's base stats. We'll mark them using beads on the sheet. Finally, these are the Bard's starting items. Place them on your character board. Now let's see how to project our character's backstory onto the playboard. To mark your base stats, use the transparent half-circle beads, symbols of your soul's essence. Start with your first stat, strength, then continue with intelligence, dexterity, and finally vitality. Vitality uses 2 beads. One marks your maximum vitality, and the other tracks your current health. When your character takes damage, place and slide the second bead on the player board to update your current vitality as the journey unfolds. Then locate and place the 4th skill hex in its proper spot. There are 3 types of skills that shape your journey. White represents the gathering, yellow embodies the crafting, and black channels the power of combat. The Bard gifted with an extra white skill. Place this skill onto the board. Finally, check the item piles and place the starting items on the board according to your character's setup. The Bard begins their journey with a magic book, a pair of boots, and an amulet. Now we return to the realm of play. The first soul steps forth, seeking to find the hidden swamp region. When a new land is revealed, those bound by the liberate a region, destiny cast the star die, a relic with a single shining mark among shadows. A die with 1 star side and 5 blank sides. If they roll a star, they can place their scenario-specific terrain tile, in this case, the swamp tile, in that spot. If they don't roll a star, they simply draw a random tile from the terrain pile, reveal it, and continue exploring. Players with a scenario goal like liberate a region must keep exploring the surrounding areas until they find their required terrain. Here, the swamp region. Once the correct terrain is revealed, either by successfully rolling a star or by drawing it from the pile, we proceed to the next step. On any newly revealed terrain, choose one entity card from the matching tier deck. We'll explain entity tiers in more detail later, but for now, remember, Tier 1 enemies are easier, and Tier 3 are the most challenging. As you move farther from your starting altar, enemies grow stronger, from Tier 1 up to Tier 3. However, scenario-specific tiles override this rule. They feature a Tier 3 entity settlement that must be defeated to complete the scenario. Even the wisest adventurers pause to study the rulebook, for within its pages lie the simple truths that shape this world. Most of the game's calculations are built on very straightforward core mechanics. By properly reading your character sheet, you can play smoothly without getting stuck in constant number crunching. There's no extra effort needed. The game's math is already built into your stats and bead markers. Everything you need to calculate is right there in front of you. In the Souls, actions are divided into three main categories: non-combat actions, combat actions, and free actions. Each carries its own rhythm in the flow of time. Each type follows different rules, which we'll explore in detail next. Let's walk through Exploration, one of the non-combat actions in the Souls. When you move toward any terra incognita, an unexplored region, that triggers an exploration action. If any player's scenario is tied to a specific terrain type, all players must roll the star die on their explorations. If no star appears, simply draw and reveal a random terrain hex from the terrain deck, then continue your journey. After revealing the tile, draw one adventure card. This deck contains random events, some beneficial, others dangerous. Prefer to avoid the risk? You can spend a gemstone before drawing to complete the exploration safely without facing a risky adventure. Some results may call for stat checks. Remember, these checks use the base stats printed on your backstory card, not your current totals or temporary bonuses. Because checks rely only on your base values, exploration can be risky, but incredibly rewarding. Our traveler steps forward in this direction. The star die falls silent, its face blank, so fate reveals a random land, a grassland. This terrain would fulfill another player's scenario condition, but we'll come back to that shortly. For now, we continue as if a different type of region had been revealed. After revealing the tile, the player draws a card from the entity deck and places the entity's settlement mini-hex onto the newly revealed region. Entity tiers are set by how far you are from any altar. Draw from Tier 1 in the inner ring, Tier 2 in the next ring, and Tier 3 in the outer rings, stronger the farther you go. The entity card reveals the nature of what dwells within this land, the kind of settlement it guards, and the essence of its power. Its combat skills are divided by origin, from strength, the arts of slashing, piercing, and crushing, from intelligence, the forces of dark, light, and elemental magic. The card also shows the treasure value, the entity's level, the dominion it belongs to, and its aggression level, all of which define how this entity behaves in combat and how rewarding the encounter may be. Our player flips an adventure card, Stumble and Roll. While exploring, they tumble and lose one equipped item they were wearing. After resolving the adventure, we re-evaluate the region. Based on its distance from the altar, this would normally result in a Tier 1 draw. However, another player's scenario is to liberate a grassland, and the revealed hex is indeed grassland, which means the scenario triggers a Tier 3 draw, summoning the strongest class of entities. From the fog emerges the Hrimthursar, the fog giant, an omen of chaos and an unexpected twist for the very first region, pure chance at play. Place the entity card somewhere visible. Usually the player closest to the entity keeps it in front of them. You'll reference its stats during combat and use them to plan your next moves. We find the entity settlement mini-hex and place it on the grassland. From this point on, that region now holds a fog giant settlement. For the player whose scenario objective is to liberate a grassland, the goal is now clear: reach this region and destroy the settlement. If another player defeats the fog giant first, it doesn't count toward their victory. Each player can only win by completing their own scenario objective. And remember, the player isn't forced to fight this specific grassland. And know this: the liberation is not bound to this single land. Should another grassland emerge on the horizon, it may too be freed. The scenario only requires that one grassland be cleansed, not which one, nor where. Moving on to the second non-combat action, searching for resources. To search for resources, roll the number of dice indicated by your gathering skill. Should you lack the skill, cast but one die. A humble attempt, yet even a faint spark may reveal hidden riches to those who listen to the earth. Now we walk the quieter path, seeking a master. A master is more than a teacher. They are the keepers of forgotten arts. Upon your character sheet lie 5 empty slots waiting to be filled by those who will shape your destiny. Filling those slots are essential for long-term progression. Other non-combat actions include crossing from one region to the next, resting or tending wounds, crafting items using your gathered resources, one of the game's core mechanics, retrieving what was left behind, constructing monuments, only available as a win condition in specific scenarios, or bartering with fellow wanderers. Remember, each round gives you 3 actions, 1 per turn. You can perform up to 2 combat actions or make all 3 non-combat. It's a small rule, but it has a big impact on your strategy. Let us return to the character sheet, the map of your soul's potential. Along its lower edge, the colors of mastery unfold. Black hexes, the hue of conflict and will, marks the combat skills, dark, light, and elemental magic, and the physical arts of slashing, piercing, and crushing. White hexes, the color of breath and life, reflects gathering and survival, mining, woodcutting, herbalism, climbing, tanning, weaving, orienteering, and foraging. And yellow hexes, radiant and enduring, signifies crafting, the power to shape matter into meaning. Alchemist, blacksmith, enchanter, and craftsman. These 3 colors form the foundation of your character's growth and define how you interact with the world. Now let's look at the top section of the character sheet. Strength, the force that shapes steel and breaks bone. Your physical power in battle. Intelligence, the spark of mind and magic. Fuel for spells and mental power in combat. Remember, during adventure checks, only your base values are used. Your current stats don't apply. Dexterity governs crafting and how efficiently you can turn resources into items. And vitality, the flame of life itself, representing both your maximum and current health. Together, these 4 stats define your character's foundation. Everything else builds upon them. Now begins the third non-combat action, seeking a master. Open the Book of Masters and roll a d20. Match your result to the booklet entry to identify which masters you've found and what skill they teach. Our die lands upon 8, a sign of the Earth Warden's path, granting choice between mining and woodcutting. The chill of the coming Ice Age, common enemy, whispers the wiser choice. Woodcutting, which provides higher quantity and quality of wood for flame and shelter, will soon mean survival itself. Next, find the woodcutting skill card from the skill deck. Remember, non-combat skills have cards. The black hexes of combat bear no such cards. Each card acts as a quick reference, showing your skill level, gathering capacity, and success rates. Take the white hex skill token, place the card beside your character sheet, and put the token into an open white skill slot. Slot 2 or 4, for example. You begin at level 1 and can level it up through experience in play. Thus ends the ritual of the Master's Search. Roll the die, find the guide, claim the craft if you need it, mark it upon your soul. The second soul ventures outward, stepping into the shadow of an unknown land. We draw a terrain hex and reveal the underground realm. Since no player has a scenario objective connected to this region, we draw from the Tier 1 entity deck. The Omen appears, Gulyabani, a restless being haunting the depths. The settlement token is placed upon the underground realm, marking it forever as the lair of Gulyabani. Its presence will linger until challenged or destroyed. As a reminder, the claw icon on the entity card represents the aggression stat, and Gulyabani's value is quite high, meaning it's very aggressive. On the right-hand column of the card, you'll find all of its combat stats. These define how the entity behaves in battle. Keep these numbers in mind, for knowing your foe is the first step towards surviving its wrath. let's cover combat actions, the choices of those who dare to draw steel or cast a spell. First, seek for trouble. Draw a random entity from the appropriate tier deck for the region you're in and face whatever emerges from the shadows. Second, assault a settlement. Attack an entity settlement in your current region, like the Gulyabani outpost we revealed earlier. Third, hunt a rival. In competitive play, you may search for another player in the same area. If you find them, you can initiate PvP combat. These are the ways of combat in the Souls, each a test of courage, will, and consequence. Time to prepare an assault on the Gulyabani settlement. The player first checks the entity's stat column, noting which abilities are strong and which are weak. With no weapon and no spellbook equipped, the player chooses Strength, their higher stat, instead of Intelligence. This means the fight will be physical, and the Gulyabani has an advantage because player is barehand and will defend using its best physical stat, Piercing. The attack flow is straightforward. The attacker rolls a d6 and adds their relevant stat. The defender rolls a d12 and adds their corresponding defense stat. The dance of combat begins. The attacker casts a d6, adding their strength, 7 plus 4, 11. The defender rolls a d12, adding piercing, 7 plus 2, 9. 11 overcomes 9. The strike lands true. Apply the outcomes. The player gains treasure, equal to the card's treasure value. The settlement takes 1 damage. Place a damage token on it. The player earns 1 black XP cube for using a combat skill. Reminder, without training a black combat skill from a master, a player can hold a maximum of 2 XP cubes. XP is saved for level ups, which we'll cover in an upcoming section. Now let's resolve the treasure phase. The player rolls a d20 and checks the result on the treasure table. The roll shows 16, which awards an amulet. The amulet's level is marked with a question mark, meaning its level is set to 1 less than the defeated entity's level. Since our enemy was level 2, the amulet becomes level 1. And remember, by rule, level 1 creatures always drop level 1 items or resources. The defeated enemy was Gulyabani with a treasure count of 1. Consulting the treasure table, we obtain a level 1 amulet. Remember, item backs can display different level markings. The amulet is placed upon the neck slot, and with it, the soul's grace sharpens. Dexterity rises from 4 to 5, and since the player won the battle, they also gain 1 black experience cube. Place the cube in the experience section of the character sheet, a small ember of growth, soon to be used for leveling up. Since we attacked an entity settlement, it takes 1 damage. Mark this by placing a damage token on it. If it's struck again, upgrade the marker to 2 to represent cumulative damage. After a 3rd successful attack, the settlement is destroyed and removed from the region. In this scenario, that's your win condition, to defeat a Tier 3 settlement, which corresponds to a Level 5 or Level 6 entity stronghold. Achieving that marks the liberation of the region and victory for your soul. When all souls have taken their 3rd action, the world itself stirs, and the common enemy phase begins. Read the common enemy card. It details when and how its effects take place. In this case, the card specifies that its effect begins after round 5. Since we're currently in round 1, we don't resolve any common enemy actions yet. The common enemy phase is skipped for rounds 1 through 5. Starting from round 6, resolve the card's listed effect at 4th turn. The ice will pile up, and the world will change. Now it's the 6th turn, the entity phase. Look to where each soul has made camp. The measure lies in the claw-marked number, the aggression of the foe, a value from 2 to 20, whispering danger in the dark. If your roll is greater than or equal to the aggression number, your camp stays undetected. If your roll is lower, the entity strikes, and combat begins. Roll high, sleep tight. Roll low, wake up fighting. In our example, the fog giant has 18 aggression, and our roll was 16. That's below the threshold, so we're caught. Each player checks separately. Remember, the higher the aggression, the greater the risk. During the entity phase, the fog giant launches an attack on the player who decided to camp within its territory. According to the entity card, the giant's strongest ability is elemental magic, with a base stat of 19. That's the one it uses for this strike. The attacker always rolls a 6-sided die, so we roll a d6 for the giant, and it lands on 6. Adding that to its elemental magic stat gives a total attack power of 25, a devastating number, especially for an unprepared camper. Because this is a magic-based attack, the defending player must use intelligence to resist. Their intelligence stat is only 6. Defenders roll a 12-sided die. The roll comes up 2, bringing the total defense value to 8. That's a 17-point difference between attacker and defender. Keep that number, 17, because it's used when consulting the defeat table immediately after combat. The margin between attack and defense determines the severity of the outcome. The rules are simple. The danger is not. One unlucky roll can turn a quiet night at camp into a fight for survival. Since the player lost the battle, we now consult the defeat table. Roll a d20. The result is 6. That corresponds to injury and major theft. This is why we kept the margin number of 17 from earlier. According to the table, the player loses vitality equal to the margin. With a vitality of 7, taking 17 damage drops them to 0. The character falls, their life extinguished in the cold silence of defeat. The entry also includes major theft. Any theft-related effects will be resolved through the game's death handling system, which we'll cover next in the Death and Rebirth section. Defeat in the Souls isn't just a setback, it's part of the cycle. The soul has fallen. Take their backstory card, place it at the bottom of the backstory deck, and draw the top card. The soul awakens as a cleric. Place the new backstory card beside the character sheet, and let the spirit return at the nearest altar. The reborn now claims their starting relics. Their stats restored and reshaped by this new existence. As for the old gear, its fate is decided by the defeat or death outcome rolled earlier. Some items may be lost, stolen, or destroyed based on that result. According to Defeat Table Event 6, when a player dies in combat, they must forfeit 2 items, their highest ranked item and one of their lowest ranked items. These are placed at the settlement of the enemy that defeated them, forming part of that entity's treasure hoard. In our case, we place the medallion, the highest ranked item, and the spellbook, one of the lowest, beneath the fog giant's settlement marker. Those items now remain there, awaiting retrieval or lost forever if no one returns to claim them. And so begins another life. The same soul now walking a different path, carrying whispers of who they were and hints of who they may yet become. Experience endures, but dimmed, a fragment of memory lost in the passage between lives. Now let's resolve skills after death. Before dying, our top skill was woodcutting at level 2. According to the rules, when a character dies, their highest leveled skill is preserved, while all other skills drop by 1 level. When setting up the new character, that woodcutting slot is now empty. It becomes a blank white skill slot. You can fill it with any white gathering or survival skill starting directly at level 2. Alternatively, you can rearrange 1 to 3 skill slots as you wish. For example, transferring this preserved skill into a black slot to convert it into a combat-related skill. So even in death, progress isn't lost. It carries forward as a head start into your next life. Finally, the new backstory card changes our 4th slot into a yellow craftsman slot. Take a beige hex and place it there to mark your new crafting proficiency. The cycle continues. Same soul, new strengths. First, remove any remaining items and resources from the old character and return them to the item and resource boxes. Next, update the new character's base stats according to their backstory: Strength 5, Intelligence 9, Dexterity 7, Vitality 5. Finally, take the starting equipment shown beneath the new backstory card and equip each item on your character sheet accordingly. Thus, the soul stands ready once more. A fresh beginning, forged from the ashes of the old. The reborn soul arms itself for a new dawn. Before them lie their gifts: a level 1 leather armor, a level 1 morning star, and a level 2 spellbook of dark magic. Place the backstory card upon the table and equip each relic in turn. The armor upon the torso, the morning star in one hand, and the spellbook in the other. Remember, a player may carry only one weapon and one spellbook in the hand slots at any time. Now feel the spirit grow stronger. The spellbook lifts intelligence to 11, the Morningstar grants strength 6, and the leather armor steadies the body with vitality 6. Thus armed and awakened, the new cleric stands fully ready for their next journey. By the rules, you can swap the positions of the first 3 skill slots however you prefer. The level 2 slot you advanced before Rebirth doesn't have to remain white. You may replace it with a black or yellow skill hex instead. The only restriction is color composition. Within the first 3 slots, you must have 1 black, 1 white, and 1 yellow. No duplicates among them. Think of it as the balance between fight, forage, and forge. For clarity during your early sessions, we recommend keeping the printed arrangement, then experiment with rearranging later once you're comfortable with how each skill type interacts. Let's take a look at a late-game character, the Knight. After exploring numerous regions and surviving countless battles, the Knight has advanced several key skills. They've specialized in slashing as their primary weapon skill. Each level of slashing directly increases strength. Their equipped slashing-type weapon from the same skill family provides an additional strength bonus. The rings also play an important role. The right-hand ring adds strength equal to its level, while the left-hand ring grants intelligence equal to its level. When combined, these bonuses create a high-damage build, pushing the Knight's strength to around 23, a formidable value for slashing-type physical attacks as the game nears its final acts. At last, the endgame stands before us. The Knight, resolute, confronts the Black Dragon. A gamble of courage against the jaws of doom. A high-risk battle, but a necessary one. First, we check the entity card. The dragon's defense against slashing is 25. Our Knight's strength is 23, and they're attacking with a slashing weapon. So the rolls are Attacker 23 plus D6, Defender 25 plus D12. As always, attackers roll a D6, while defenders roll a D12. We roll the dragon's defense first. D12 equals 2 for a total of 27. Now the Knight's attack, D6 equals 4, bringing the total to 27. A perfect tie, and in this realm, by sacred rule of player versus entity, ties favor the player. Resolve the outcomes. The entity card grants 3 treasure for victory. Because this was an assault on a settlement, place 1 damage token on the Black Dragon's settlement. The scenario objective is to destroy the Tier 3 settlement by scoring 3 successful assaults. This strike counts as 1. 2 more victories in later rounds will destroy the settlement, free the region, and fulfill the win condition. The risk was great, but tonight, fortune favored the fearless. 2 more to go. With the dragon's roar fading into the mist, we turn to the spoils of war. The treasure table. The Black Dragon pays out 3 rolls, so we roll 15, 9, and 18. From the table, 18 grants 1 weapon of your choice, 15 grants 1 armor of your choice, 9 provides 1 bone-type resource. All rewards take their level from the enemy's level, -1. Select your weapon wisely that synergizes with your build, choose armor that endures the storm, and stash the bone resource for crafting. With these rewards secured, the Knight is ready to re-engage the dragon and strike the remaining blows needed to destroy the settlement in upcoming rounds. On this terrain hex region, the player has completed their first successful assault. If they still have a second combat action this round, they can attack again. A second victory would push the settlement's damage to 2. The scenario objective is straightforward. Deliver 3 successful assaults on the Black Dragon's settlement. On the third, the settlement is destroyed and the player wins the scenario. If the player dies at any point, the damage tokens remain on the settlement. After rebirth at the nearest altar, the new incarnation can return to the same region and continue the siege exactly where it left off. That is the heart of the souls. Rebirth. Progress that endures beyond death. Every fall a step toward redemption. Thank you for walking this path with us. May your journeys be relentless, your victories hard-earned, and your soul forever free.